are live streaming, so the meeting is being recorded. The meeting is in two parts. More on that as we get towards the transition from part one to part two, and the meeting is being held as a consultation call. If there are any decisions, they will be under the delegated authority of the chief exec. I think that's all we have to cover as part of that part of the welcome. The other thing that I just wanted to point out was that the previous meeting was in March, which was the last meeting we had with Martin Tugwell. Martin has since stepped away from the organisation, and Katie Day has been appointed as chief exec. Katie, I forgive me, I don't know whether that's on an interim basis or whether that is just as it is.
Thank you, Graham. It's an interim basis up until March 2027. Thank you. And it's good to be here with the Audit Committee. Thanks for hosting.
Bless you. And I also wanted to point out that Rachel Ford is our new SLT sponsor for Audit and Governance, and Strategy and Corporate Services Director. Rachel, have I got that right?
You do have that right, and that's also on an interim basis, Graham, up until the end of March 2027.
Okay. Gary, just in terms of attendance as you were expecting it.
Yeah, there's just been one apology for this morning's meeting, and that's from Councillor Baker Rogers.
Okay, so we have Richard Thomas, independent member. We have Steve Adstead, who is Greater Manchester. Steve, have I got that right? Stuart Green, who's the independent member. I'm Graham Bell, the independent member and committee chair. On the call, we also have Daniel Watson from ZARS, Alex Heyer from RSM, Gavin and Gary from TFN, and Keith and Lisa have joined us as well from TFN, and Dion is out of sight doing all of the technical stuff. So I think that's everybody, Gary, is that right?
Yeah, that sounds like everyone's here, Chair, yes.
Grand. If everybody's happy, we'll just skip through to the declaration of interest. If anybody does have anything that's pertinent to the items on the agenda that they wish to flag or exclude themselves from them, please shout. I'm expecting nothing, so if that's okay, we'll carry on. The minutes from the previous meeting, as I said, that was in March. It's always a surprise how much stuff we actually get through at these meetings. But I was just looking back through the content. We covered off a number of topics minuted from the 6th of March. One of them was the final audited statement of accounts for 24-25. We looked at the audit and governance annual assurance report for 25-26, the governance statement for 25-26, and we also looked at the plan for 25-26 accounts and audit, which I know we'll come on to further on through the agenda. And we also looked at the internal audit plan as well as the corporate risk register. I was comfortable that those minutes, I think, are quite extensive. I was comfortable that they covered everything. Are we happy to approve those minutes as they're presented? Are we good? Grand, thank you. Right, I think, Alex, we are straight into the internal audit update, which includes contract management and IT security reports, as well as a summary of yearly progress. So, Alex, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we have 4 papers to present today. The first report is our annual summary report 2026, and this draws together all of the reports that you've received through 25-26 as a summary and a collective position in terms of the work that's been completed. I'm not proposing to go into any detail. The reports have been seen, except for obviously the contract management one, which I'll refer to in a little bit more detail, but just it's an overall summary and picture. Happy to take any questions or comments anyone may have. Thank you.
I think we're okay to carry on, Alex.
Okay, no
Thank you.
problem at all. Thank you. So the next paper you have is our progress report. It draws upon obviously concluding the prior year report, but also a position statement against the new year plan. What you have since we've submitted this paper, we have finalised the IT security report, which I'll go through, and we just one change to the timetable is our key financial controls, accounts payable and follow-up reviews actually due to commence in July. So they've been brought forward slightly just to take into account holidays and availability, but really just sets out where we are and when we plan to present the papers to the committee moving forward. Happy to take any comments anyone may have on the this paper.
Sorry, I was muted. I think we're okay, Alex.
No, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to the more detailed reports.
Yeah, grand. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the reports, the final report from the 25-26 plan is the contract management report. We've provided reasonable assurance in this area. There's 1 medium and 2 low actions. The medium action is around enhancing the policy for the non-financial performance and strengthening the reporting around contracts. From a non-financial perspective, we could see the financial elements being reported. And then 2 low actions. One was around the register itself and that oversight, and recognising that there is 1 key individual involved in that process, which is why our audit was delayed slightly due to availability of that individual. So just recognising there is a potential single point of failure and being able to update the register. It was up to date when we did the audit, but it's just that recognition. And then the second one is around contractor performance, reminding individuals around the documentation, not necessarily having a central repository for the documentation. We recognise, key individuals will hold that information, but it's about some training to enhance that process and make sure that key individuals understand their roles and responsibilities. But overall, as I said, it sets out the key actions. All actions have been agreed with completion of 30th of June, so in a week's time by the procurement manager. And again, we'll be following these actions up as part of the next follow-up, which is happening very shortly. Happy to take any comments or questions on this one. Thank
you. Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Alex, I read the contract management audit report, which was good, reasonable assurance, and the KPI point is really an important one, because as well as managing financial variances on contracts, it's really important that contract management is about getting quality. What you're paying for, you're getting. So I'm kind of assuming that that's been covered and that is part of that recommendation. The point I was wanting to just get some assurance on is one of the main reasons for having the contract register is just to ensure that the organisation doesn't get up to the final hour with regards to contracts and has to roll them forward without having chance to go to the market and ensuring that you're getting value for money. So it's a lot of contracts we had, not just at where I work now, but in the past, they've got to, they've got to, oh, we've just realised we've got 3 weeks to go before the contract ends, and we don't have a lot of time to go and look for an alternative provider. Let's just roll it forward 12 months or roll it forward another 12 months. So it's just to get out of that habit of rolling things forward. A little bit like your car insurance, isn't it? If I carried on with the same car insurer for year after year after year, I'd be paying well over the odds without going to look for some alternatives. So I just wondered whether your audit covered that. Apologies if it does, but just some assurances that the contract register is a good way of checking that when contracts are coming up for renewal, that the organisation is able to look for better value for money.
Yeah, no, it's a fair reflection, and I completely understand your comments. Yeah, in terms of the contract register itself, we based on sampling, we could see it was accurate. It was accessible. It had contract periods and their values, all the key elements we would expect. It was probably more that there was one individual managing this, and if there is that period of absence, making sure it's up to date. But as at that point in time, there'd been quite a bit of work to build the contract register, and the procurement manager was including the key elements you would expect to be included. Thank you.
Katie. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder if I might add to Alex's comment, because Richard, it's a really, really good point that you've made. What we do on a monthly basis through our senior leadership team is look at the contract register and look at where we are and what's coming up, because in terms of good value for money, you are absolutely right. We need to make sure if there's any re-procurement, we've got the time to do that and to do that effectively. So we take a look at procurement every month through the senior leadership team meeting. Secondly, as well, because as Alex noted, we've had one individual looking after procurement. Following our restructure, that will be a different arrangement. And again, through the leadership of that senior team, we are making sure our contract managers have got the skills, the experience, and the support to be able to be on the front foot with all of this, so that we are looking ahead and making sure we're getting the best value for money in whatever we do as a forward procurement. So I'm really glad you raised the point, because I'm a bit of a stickler for some of this. So thank you. I hope that helps.
Lisa, I think you're next.
Yes, I just wanted to raise the point also that it does form part of our monthly finance reviews. So when we look at the monthly budget result every month with the budget holders, we have the open orders report and the associated contracts. So it is flagged up if there is a contract coming up to fruition. So we do keep a check on that in those forums also.
Grand. Yeah, I was I guess a couple of things struck me, Alex, as I was reading the report. One was the sort of context and materiality point. So that there is a paragraph within the main body of the report that flags up total contract value, and I know that you picked a certain number of contracts as part of your sample. I guess it's difficult from this distance to get a real sense of how much that spend is on a monthly or annual basis, whether we see that spend forecast increasing, decreasing. Do we see further consolidation across that supplier network going forward? It's that sort of really useful to see the report, really useful to hear the additional assurances. But I think there is a bit of, maybe it's in the risk register, maybe there's more context within the risk register. But I think that would be helpful, I think, with this type of report for those of us that are somewhat disconnected from the day to day, I think was my my comment. I guess linked to that is, and this is probably a question for management rather than for Alex, with the assurance that you've got from the audit, if you then look back at the risk register, does the report suggest that we've got our assessment of risk wrong? Does it need to be updated? Was it spot on? That kind of I know we've got the management actions, but I think that where the report sits in respect of management decision making, I think is always helpful. Not an easy comment to respond to, but Katie, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's a really good point, actually, and I think that routine reassessment of our risk register in the context of internal audit is something we need to re-examine as a senior leadership team. I think you've hit a broader note for me, Graham, that it's going to be timely as we look at our risk register today, but actually as we go forward with our TFN reset to think about our risk appetite more generally. So if the committee could bear with us, I'd like to take that offline to pick it up with our statutory officers, with Rachel, to just consider whether the risk assessments, the risk appetite needs looking at, and I think then the risk assessments in light of this. My gut is saying I think they are appropriate for now in reviewing the papers for today and preparing for today, but I think we've got to keep it under close review. So we'll take that away, Chair, if that's okay.
Yeah, grand, cool. All good. Thank you. Bless you, Alex. Back to you and IT security, I think.
Thank you, Chair. So the next report you have relates to the New Year plan, and this is around IT security. There are 4 areas that we considered, which is architecture and configuration, vulnerability management, data security, logging and monitoring. And these were specific areas through discussions with management that they wanted to consider, not been considered previously in our prior audits, but really to support TFN on that ongoing journey. As we know, it continues to be, heightened risk, and the profile continues to change. I'm pleased to say overall, in terms of those 4 specific areas that we've considered, we've provided substantial assurance and no actions. And you'll see within the audit themes, our background and conclusion, the detailed areas we focused on, also the preventative detective controls, the standardized secure device builds, patch deployment, all of those key areas that we've considered under those 4 headings, sort of no management actions, which is pleasing to see, given obviously the environment that we that everyone, I guess, every organisation and individual space. But I'm happy to take any comments or questions anyone may have. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. I struggling with my trackpad. Any comments on IT security? Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a subject matter which is close to my heart. Pleasing in a way that there are no recommendations, but any report like this, I suppose there's 2 sides to the fence. There's the non-technical and technical aspects to IT security, and what I did was read through the risk register on IT. So what I'm talking is around vulnerability scanning and penetration testing, things that this report doesn't do because it's not a technical IT security report. It's more looking at the policy side, I think. So happy with that, but obviously IT security is dependent upon the technical area working correctly. And as I say, I read the risk register and I did sort of take my own assurance that penetration testing and technical support on the they call it the SaaS architecture that you use is adequate. So it's not a question really. It's just more of a comment that there's this, when it aligns with the technical side as well, it shows a good picture for IT security. Just one thing to know, from my work I've been doing, we've just come up with an AI policy, and that's just because people in our organisation were experimenting with AI, and that doesn't in itself create a secure IT security. It creates a risk, but it creates a risk if they don't know really what they're doing and start moving data out of the organisation and doing AI on themselves without any guiding policy. So I don't know if there's anybody on the call can sort of say whether AI has been adopted and whether it's controlled by a policy. I think they call it AI guide. They call them guide rails for use. So that could be another. That's an up and coming risk in terms of IT security for data. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll pop in on that one. As you've mentioned in the corporate risk register, we have noted that we have just had the recent independent cybersecurity testing, and there were a few mitigation actions arising from that, which we have incorporated into the risk register and also into our work going forward. But just specifically on the point around the AI policy, we implemented an AI policy last year, which has some really clear controls and guide rails for our staff about using it. We only allow the use of Copilot internally. It's all locked down. It prevents information from being uploaded to anywhere else. And we also have additional information for our technical assurance teams and analysis teams who use obviously a lot of AI around modelling and things like that, because we want to be able to maximise the technology, but to do so in a safe and reasonable way. So we do have a policy. It was rolled out last year, and it is implemented and checked on a regular basis.
Thanks, Rachel. Are you okay to move on, Richard?
I think there's a hand up, Chair.
Yes, Stuart, go ahead.
Chair, thank you. Richard, thank you. Just with your permission, Chair, just to extend Richard's point a little, I'm mindful, of course, we are in public session, so I'll couch my question with appropriate care. Good to see an organisation that's got an appropriate and I have to say robust, what appears to be a perfectly robust policy framework in place. My question is more about the practicalities of cybersecurity in a little broader sense. With your permission, Chair, I just want to get a feel for management's assessment of capacity here. It's great to have policies, great to have procedures, good to see them being implemented in a way that's appropriate. But what's our feel for whether or not we got, well, people in the right place and that we can retain them in this respect?
Thanks, Stuart. Katie.
Very happy to come back on that, and very happy to provide separate briefing if that would be useful. As part of our recent restructuring, we did look at what capacity and capability we would need in terms of our IT to make sure we've got the right suitably qualified and experienced people. I am comfortable as the interim chief exec that we have a capable and qualified IT team working very efficiently in terms of our services to run our core business around transport governance, transport planning, but also in terms of the support we need around all of the work that we do around modelling analysis as well. So we were very clear that in being a standalone statutory body, we must have suitably qualified and experienced people and enough for business continuity purposes to make sure we are able to run our core functions legally, compliantly and safely. So I'm very comfortable member that we have got that in the right place. Nonetheless, though, you will see on our risk register, we have a risk in there about staff retention and about staff training and support, and we will keep that and continue to keep that regularly under review.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, well, it would be it would be wrong to move on without me mentioning something that I've mentioned before. My challenge, I think, remains the context within, and it's really fantastic that the report provides the level of assurance it does around the controls that are in place. Don't get me wrong. I think my challenge is about the context within which we think about cyber risk. I've always felt that it carries a score in the risk register that doesn't really do either the likelihood or the impact of an attack justice. That remains my position. And just to illustrate, I was reading a report this morning, actually. Lessons from the JLR and M&S cyber attacks, which are now widely used as sort of benchmarks in this space, as I'm sure we're familiar. Couple of headlines. I shan't go beyond a couple of sentences. Organizations have learnt that the likelihood of cyber attacks is higher, more systematic, and far easier for attackers to achieve than previously assumed, especially when identity, third-party access, and service desk processes are weak. The key word in there for me from that sentence is the word assumed. And then further on in the report, bear with me. The operational impact of attacks is far greater than expected. So the words assumed and expected, I think for me, are the takeaways from recent events. And I would caution any organization not to take too much assurance from a report that looks at individual controls, but to consider the learning from that wider cyber environment. Yeah, it isn't just about adjusting the score in the risk register. It is about, I think, embracing the idea that whatever we think about cyber is probably wrong. That's what JLR learned, and that's what M&S learned. So, Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a very valid point. It's something that if the committee are happy, we can take it away. As Katie's already indicated, we need to look at a risk assessment across the board. So if that's something that we could take offline, have a conversation with our senior leadership team and just ensure that the risk register reflects what has come out of the recent audit report, as well as some of the sort of learning from external events that we could implement.
Grand. Thank you. Bless you. Good. I think, Alex, I think that's everything in respect of those two. Back to you. Is there anything else?
No, nothing from me, Chair, but some good valid points. I think in terms of the IT security, it continues to evolve, and you have to be responsive in terms of obviously potential attacks. So yeah, some good points. Thank you.
Grand. Thanks, Alex. I think we are, if everybody's okay to move on to item 5, Daniel. I think this is the external audit update. I don't think there is a decision in here, Daniel, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think this is for us to provide feedback on in respect of that plan, but over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. This is just for information. It's our audit plan for the year ended 31st of March 2026, so the accounts that TFM will be publishing at the end of this month. Time flies. I'll just draw out the key points in here, really. So the first one, just to pick out, is the significant risks we've identified for the audit. When we say significant risks, those are the areas of the accounts that are most susceptible to a material error or omission. So that doesn't mean we don't look at other things in the accounts, it's just where we spend a particular amount of time directing our audit work, and there's two of those we've identified which is in common with previous years. So the first one in there is the valuation of the net pension liability. It's actually a pension asset this year. And that is because it's the biggest estimate in your accounts and is subject to lots of technical assumptions by the pension fund and your actuaries. We engage an actuarial expert, so the National Audit Office engage an expert on behalf of all audit firms for public sector pension funds. So PwC review the work of the actuaries for us, and then we complete local testing on the data that's been used to drive the figures in your accounts. There is one slight change this year in that the 31st of March 2025 was the latest valuation date for the pension fund. So over the last year, the actuary has been updating the valuation at the entire fund level. So we ask the auditors of Greater Manchester Pension Fund to complete some specific work around the membership data that's been used in that valuation process to make sure that we're happy that that's correct. That work's done not by us but by the pension fund audit team, so it's not extra work that we'll need to bother Lisa and Keith with, but it's something that'll just take place in the background. The other significant risk we've identified is management override of controls, and that is a mandated significant risk across all audits. So it's not a specific concern at TFN, it just reflects the fact that management have a direct impact on the financial position that's reported publicly, and therefore could choose to manipulate that if they wanted to. As I say, not a concern at TFN, but you would expect us to do quite a lot of work around that to make sure that hadn't happened. So we do particular work around journal entries and accounting estimates throughout the accounts to make sure that that hasn't occurred. The only other enhanced risk that we've identified is around IFRS 16 leases. So last year was the first year of implementation, and you remember there were a couple of issues we identified last year that required rectification. So hopefully it's a fairly straightforward piece of work, just making sure that leases rolled forward in year, but we'll just make sure that that's been done and those errors haven't reoccurred in there. The other bits I just wanted to pick out were the materiality levels. So that's on page 75 of the reports pack that I've got, page 10 of our report that just sets the materiality level that we will use throughout our audit. So at the moment, it's the same level as last year, £322,000. What that means is if we identified an error that is above that level and it wasn't changed, it would cause us to modify our audit opinion. Hopefully we wouldn't ever get to that stage. If we found something above that level, we'd discuss it with Lisa and Keith and we'd make sure that's adjusted throughout the course of the audit, but that's sort of the threshold we have to set under auditing standards. The other specific materiality level we set is around senior officers' remuneration, because in the public sector, let's face it, that's the part of the accounts that the public get most interested in. So we like to make sure that that is as right as possible. So we set a level of £5,000 on that, just to make sure we do quite a bit of detailed testing around that note to give management some confidence that the figures in there that they're presenting to the public are right. The only other thing I was just going to draw out was our work on value for money. So you remember last year we identified a significant weakness in arrangements. We'll follow that up this year. Obviously, that you've used external providers to prepare your accounts this year. So we'll report on progress on that and hopefully be able to lift that this year, but we'll need to do the work of the audit to confirm whether or not we can lift that weakness. There are no other risks of weaknesses that we've identified through our audit planning, so at this stage that's the only area that we need to focus on, but we will issue our value for money commentary as we have done in previous years as well. So that'll be produced by the end of November and published and then finalised at the end of the audit process. In terms of timeline, we've got the audit team set up to come in over the summer and complete the audit. No concerns at this stage for meeting TFN's timetable, but obviously we'll keep that under close watch, and we'll meet with Lisa and Keith regularly in case there are any things that might cause us not to meet that. But at this stage, I'm not anticipating any issues. Wasn't going to go into any further detail at this stage, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Daniel. I just it's always worth repeating. I think one of the strengths of this committee is the fact that you're here and we have a relationship with Mazars and we have the opportunity to talk about this stuff in detail. So thank you for that. Is it worth coming over to Keith and Lisa first, just in terms of just picking up any additional context that you would like to provide on that?
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I'm just confirming what Daniel said there, is that you know, we assessed the weaknesses last year in the accounts and as presented by external audit, and we feel we've overcome them very strongly in terms of the final accounts last year. It was the draft accounts that had the issues with them, and it was the final accounts that were delayed, but were right and fully compliant and accurate. So on that basis, yes, as you said, we commissioned the accounts prep side of RSM to produce our accounts from all the figures and information that the finance team and Lisa put together as each year, but do a full compliance check. So there was something like 150-page compliance checklist, which Daniel kindly shared with me, and that's been fully completed by RSM. So yeah, I feel that the draft accounts last year that had disclosure requirement issues don't this year. That the figures are all accurately prepared. Lisa and the team have undertaken a lot of checking exercises in April and May to ensure those numbers are complete and accurate. So yeah, I feel that we're in a good position, a much better position than last year. Lisa, do you want to add anything?
Nothing else I can think to add. Just agree with all those points.
Grand. Appreciate that. Both. Any questions or points from Richard, colleagues? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just one minor one around capacity within the finance team. Has that been fairly stable? I mean, it's always a challenge, isn't it? I mean, the technical aspects of the accounts, the leases and the pensions probably rely on the pensions, definitely on the actuarial reports. But in terms of the finance team, has it been quite stable over the last 6 to 12 months?
It's certainly more stable now. We've got a permanent member of staff in place who's taking over the bulk of duties that I used to do. From a transactional perspective, we've got a very capable interim resourcing who's been a significant improvement, and our existing permanent member of staff is slowly returning from long-term sick, so we are in a much better position now.
Right, thanks.
Brad, thanks. Thanks, Richard. Anybody else? We okay? Yeah, just for colleagues' visibility, Daniel was kind enough to send me what I thought was a simple question there, Daniel, but it actually turned out to be it made my head hurt a little bit, specifically on fraud, risk, and one or two other topics to help inform that exercise. Obviously very relevant for the committee because fraud risk is formally part of our terms of reference. So it was a good opportunity for me to think back through how we've looked at that risk at committee over the last 12 months. I think Keith has provided some management pointers as well, Daniel. So that's ready to come back. That's ready to come back to you on behalf of the committee. The other reason for raising it, and I know Daniel spoke about a couple of risks, one of them being management override. But if colleagues do have any other specific risk-related concerns that they wish to flag to Daniel, either in this forum or via Keith or directly, then please do, because it will only make for a more complete and comprehensive exercise, I think. Good. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody, for that. I think, Rachel, we are on to item 6, so an update on the corporate risk register.
Thank you, Chair. So this report forms the quarterly update to the committee on the corporate risk register. I'm not going to work my way through the corporate risk register in detail, but I did want to draw attention to 2 specific points. The first of which relates to cybersecurity, which is corporate risk 12, and we've already discussed that. I just wanted to highlight that we have made some changes to the corporate risk on cybersecurity, and that is ensuring that data management and security is captured in the corporate risk register. Previously, it was captured at functional risk register, but given some of the points that we've talked about today, we recognised what an important issue it was, and we've amended that risk to reflect that. We've also included the update on the independent cyber penetration testing, which we've mentioned earlier as well. The other point which I wanted to highlight in relation to the corporate risk register is the addition of 2 new corporate risks, which reflect the development of the new operating and the new funding models which are underway. That is about corporate risk 13 and corporate risk 14. Both of those risks are currently assessed as very high. I'm happy to take any questions that members may have on the corporate risk register. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Just to add some context to the register, we are having further discussions around that as part of part 2. So maybe wise for us to limit reflections on other risks aside of the 2 new ones at this point. I'll just kick off. I think and I've said this before as well. I think one of the key things for me in respect of risk is the context. So anything that management do on our behalf to provide that context is always really useful. So thank you for keeping doing that, because it's kind of essential. Stuart, go ahead.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Rachel, for speaking to this one. Just by way of the 2 new risks, if it is appropriate, Chair, just to touch upon those at this point. I know that management, one of the mitigations that's being applied is regular engagement with various stakeholders and so on. Just wonder, through you, Chair, if management might share just the nature of that engagement, and what, if any, additional forms of engagement management might be planning to apply by way of, well, the risk around funding in particular. Thank you.
Grant, Rachel, go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. Very happy to answer that question. Led by Katie as Chief Exec, there has been considerable engagement with our constituent authorities and members over the last few months. We have held one-to-one engagement sessions with all of the mayors and leaders from our combined authorities. And we're also working very closely with senior officers through our executive board group, which meets on a regular basis, and we're gathering their input. So there's been considerable engagement on both the new operating model and on the new funding model to help us shape that.
Okay, thank you.
Grand, thank you. Yeah, okay, good. So I think further detailed discussion is obviously going to come as part of part two. So I think that's I think we're probably okay with that. Rachel, again, thank you for the update. So and just to clarify, you've taken responsibility for the production of that document and for the review of risks on behalf of the SLT. Is that correct?
I have, yes. As Katie said, it's something that we're going to be looking at as a senior leadership team. I'm the responsible director for corporate risk now. Very happy to have conversations with any committee members offline if they may want to sort of share further information. But yes, very pleased to be taking the lead on the committee, and happy to sort of be working with everybody around the table.
Yeah, and we had a pre-call a week or so back, just to get my eye in respect of the agenda, and we did talk briefly about risk appetite, and I think risk appetite is so important for people within the organisation, because it really provides the framework within which they're expected to make decisions. It's a way of translating that risk register into something that's a wee bit more meaningful. But I think that the real takeaway for me, and it's something that I keep reminding myself of, and I have done for the last 5 years here, is the need for the risk management framework to remain proportionate. And I think that's the reason I share that with colleagues is it's something that I keep having to remind myself of. It may not be relevant to other people, but it is relevant to me and my agenda. So I didn't want you to think that we're completely blind to that. Quite the contrary. But good. Excellent. Right. I think that's everything on risk, and we are about to transition, I think, from part one of the meeting into part two. But before we do that, I just wanted to confirm dates for people's calendars. I have the next meeting on my list as Friday, the 4th of September. Hopefully that's other people have already got visibility of that. I don't know whether it's going to be in person or not. It's been ages since I've been to Manchester, so maybe we should do that in person. I don't know. Or indeed somewhere else.
It's currently scheduled, Chair, to be on MS Teams, but we can take that away and have a look at diaries, because I do think we have got an in-person meeting plan, but I cannot recall off the top of my head which one it is. So we'll pick that up.
And apologies for assuming that it has to be in Manchester. That's bad of me. Forgive me for that misstep. Good. So I think if we can just manage this transition, and please, I'll ask colleagues to provide assistance if I clearly need it. But to manage the transition from part one to part two, I just need to read a quick resolution to make sure that we are positioned correctly, and we, from a governance point of view, it's clear as to what we're doing and why. So the resolution before us is that we move from a public to a private session. So the press and the public will be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items relevant to Local Government Act 1972, on the grounds that their disclosure is not necessarily in public interest. That's the basis for the reason for moving to part 2. So if colleagues are comfortable to agree that resolution, I think we can move to part 2. We can finish with the recording, and I think we will also be inviting Daniel and Alex to drop off. I think, is that correct?
Correct, Chair. We'll just need to wait for confirmation that the recording and live streaming has stopped.
I can confirm that Dion has said that the live streaming has stopped, and I will just stop my recording